Items and abilities are generally seen as two different aspects of Pokemon, independent of each other. But there are some items that are the peanut butter to the abilities jam. They just fit like a sticky glove and synergize so well. Today we're going to look at these and see why the combos are so effective in competitive play. I'm going to skip over most of the combos specifically created for each other, like Ripen and Cheek Pouch's synergy with berries, the Weather Rock synergy with weather summoning abilities, along with the Terrain Extender and Terrain Summoning abilities. These are just too obvious and not that interesting. A real interesting starter is the synergy of the item weakness policy with a few abilities. One of the coolest is when paired with Colossal's Steam Engine. This is an example of how a cracked combo can catapult an otherwise unviable mon into competitive success. Colossal isn't particularly strong and is as slow as molasses, but in VGC, while taking advantage of the Gigantamax gimmick, an ally could use a water type attack, commonly Surf, but also something weak like Aqua Jet, and activate its Steam Engine. This raises Colossal's speed by 6 stages, more than enough to become the fastest on the field, while giving it a +2 boost in each offensive stat thanks to activating weakness policy. This happens without even taking its own turn, and thanks to it being initially slow and the dynamic speed change, Colossal will get to strike next with a massive max move. You get incredible setup just from using an allied turn, and Surf would even help to break potential sashes and secure KOs. Weakness policy also gels great with the ability Multiscale. This ability allows the user to take half damage when at full HP, becoming very hard to KO with even a ×4 super effective hit. It allows Dragonite to set up a sweep in one turn. Click Dragon Dance, be hit super effectively, and end up at +3 attack and +1 speed with extreme speed to counter most other priority. This also applies to abilities like Filter, Solid Rock, and Prism Armor, which reduce super effective damage. Bulky setup mons like Necrozma and its forms have a field day setting up. They tank a super effective hit and sweep through teams. The benefit here is not having to be at full HP to receive your ability's benefit. Galarian Darmanitan has perhaps one of the funniest synergies. Its signature ability Guerrilla Tactics will boost its attack by 50%, but locks it into the first move it uses per switch-in. Sounds an awfully lot like a choice item. Yep, it does in fact share the exact same properties as a choice band. So the natural play is just to go with the flow. You're already going to be locked into a move, so slap on a choice item that shares the same properties and enjoy a boost of speed with Choice Scarf. Or if you want to be real shiesty, double up on attack with Choice Band and annihilate pretty much everything. They definitely had this in mind when making this ability, and it really makes no sense to run anything else as it would almost be anti-synergy. These items grant you more power than any other boosting items could, and you're never looking to use utility, so supportive items are pretty much null. Those are calculated combos, but how about one that you never know how it's going to turn out? That's where we get the Quick Claw, Quick Draw Classic. Galarian Slowbro took an item that is rarely considered and combined it with its signature ability to create a deadly duo. This combines Quick Claw's 20% chance to go first with Quick Draw's 30% chance to create a 44% chance of one of them activating each turn. This brings your gambling odds high enough to actually consider foregoing Regenerator and a better item to try and get lucky and sweep. Get a Nasty Plot turn 1 and use your amazing coverage and luck of the draw to shock your opponent when your Slowbro suddenly outspeeds their fast and fragile revenge killers. What if your ability and item are the same though? It doesn't sound like it should synergize, but in the case of the Scope Lens and the ability Super Luck, them sharing the same effect is actually a big positive. The Scope Lens, and Razor Claw for that matter, increase the holder's critical hit ratio by 1 stage. This is the same as a move with a high crit ratio and gives you a 1 in 8 chance of hitting a crit on a regular move. Super Luck also has the effect, but when combined, these effects stack, giving each move a +2 critical hit ratio, having your odds of critting jump to 50%. When throwing in a move with a high crit ratio, you are guaranteed your crit. This can be useful on mons like Honchkrow, Togekiss, Absol, and Unfezant to farm increased damage from crits, which ignore your opponent's defense boosts and your own attack drops. Sniper is also a great ability to use here. While it doesn't give you an increased critical hit ratio, it does increase the power of critical hits, so a scope lens combined with a focus energy will guarantee your attacks crit. This is pretty well represented by Kingdra, who drops Dracos constantly while not caring about its special attack stat getting lower and lower. The loaded dice are a new item that specifically interact with multi-strike moves. They increase their hit frequency to guarantee 4 or 5 hits. This has incredible synergy with the Technician ability. Technician powers up moves with a lower base power, and all multi-strike moves fit into this category. Mons like Ambipom, Breloom, and Cincino gain access to Technician and strong multi-strike moves to abuse them with. The variance of being able to only hit your Tail Slap or Bullet Seeds twice made those moves pretty risky to click, so having a pseudo skill link as an item is a godsend for these mons. Cincino and Ambipom even get access to skill link, which would guarantee 5 hits, but the power boost from running Technician instead means that you're gaining choice band levels of damage from these moves comparatively while still being able to swap up your moves. The only downside being you might only hit 4 times instead of 5 and are vulnerable to knockoff. I also just ranked every multi-strike move. You can check that one out next if you haven't already. On the flip side, Skill Link itself does have its own combo worth talking about. This is with the item King's Rock. King's Rock itself is definitely not worth running, as it gives your attacking moves that don't have a chance to flinch a 10% chance to flinch. But when stacking it with moves that hit multiple times, it becomes very dangerous. Skill Link users like Cincino, Ambipom, Toucannon, and most notably Cloyster would hold a King's Rock and spam their multi-strike moves to gain around a 41% chance to flinch their opponent. This is usually only needed once or twice to complete a sweep with a Shell Smash Cloyster, as you wouldn't really have more than one mon that could stand up to its impressively strong coverage. King's Rock eventually was banned because of matches essentially coming down to an RNG 50-50, which does prove that this combo synergized pretty damn good and was problematic, as without the guaranteed 5 hits, this strategy wouldn't be nearly as consistent. There are also some defensive combos worth taking advantage of, perhaps the most common being the item Rocky Helmet, combined with punishing abilities like Rough Skin and Iron Barbs. With momentum moves like U-turn and flip turn being so annoying to deal with in singles, it is nice to have a way to punish and dissuade them. The Rocky Helmet will chip any Pokemon making contact with the holder by 1/6 of their max HP. Then you combine the effects of Rough Skin and Iron Barbs for another 1/8 for their max HP, and all of a sudden, your opponent's mon has lost about 30% of their max HP. It punishes any contact moves and just gets a lot of value out of defensive mons that might not be huge damage dealers by letting them set up their hazards and be useful after their job is done. Multi-strike moves that make contact really hate this one trick to make them KO themselves. Some combos make a pretty bad ability, less bad. What I'm talking about is for the ability Klutz when combining it with harmful items. Klutz removes the effects of held items, so packing a status orb, sticky barb, legging tail, and even assault vest will not have any effect. It sucks because you can't gain any benefits from positive items, but it lets you trick and switcheroo these harmful items onto another Pokemon and have them feel the pain instead while taking their preferred item. Trick is a common tactic to destroy a defensive Pokemon, often with choice mons, but you have to time it perfectly since you can't switch up your moves. A choice scarf on a Lopunny or Golurk with Klutz though, you can wait until the defensive answer is comfortably in and not expecting the trick. Make them take your choice scarf and lock them into one move per swap in. You can hit them with an assault vest and completely nullify any status moves they have. Even against offensive Pokemon, you can burn a physical attacker with your held Flame Orb, or give consistent damage from a Sticky Barb or Black Sludge. It's definitely a gimmicky strat on a pretty bad ability, but the synergy here is what gives Klutz any reason to be considered at all. The ability Sturdy is often paired with the Custat Berry. This is really useful since most mons using Sturdy have really low speed stats and a lot of weaknesses. Being hit into their Sturdy would otherwise make them useless after that turn. But Custberry's effect of allowing the Pokemon to move first in their priority bracket when at 25% health or lower gives these mons an extra turn of use. This works great on the lead sets that most of these mons will fill. You're often getting up entry hazards early with these mons. When brought low or to your sturdy, you can surprise your opponent with one last move. This is often getting up another layer of hazards, spinning away their hazards, but my favorite is hitting that sweet Custberry explosion, getting a ton of damage, often even a trade, and a clean switching into the next mod. What about an item that can only activate if the opponent helps you out? I'm talking about the Adrenaline Orb here, an item that will activate when you're hit by Intimidate. It will raise the user speed by 1 stage and then get consumed, which is not the most useful held item, except it has great synergy with a couple abilities. The most seen competitively is the ability Competitive. Competitive will raise their user's special attack stat by 2 stages when any of their stats are lowered. This works so well thanks to gaining a +2 special attack and +1 speed just for getting intimidated. It is quick and immediate setup, which was pretty good in Gen 7 doubles on Pokemon like Melodic. You can also use it on mons like Galarian Articuno and Empoleon, and these mons instantly become fast and threatening bulky attackers. This could also be used with the ability Guard Dog, and I think it has great synergy since you gain a +1 to your attack while intimidated, which essentially means you have a Dragon Dance when Adrenaline Orb activates. But there's such low distribution and viability for the mons that have Guard Dog that it hasn't really seen a huge splash in usage yet. Hustle is an ability that raises the user's attack by 50%, but lowers the accuracy of physical moves to 80% of their original accuracy. It's a double-edged sword ability that is often slightly rectified with the item Wide Lens. Wide Lens isn't an extremely common item thanks to most people choosing to run fairly accurate moves, but with Hustle giving that mouth-watering attack boost at the cost of accuracy, it makes sense to run it. Pokemon like Hisuian Lilligant, Durant, and Flapple all enjoy the 10% boost in accuracy the item gives. 100% accurate moves that become 80% are boosted up to 88%, which is a big difference over time. 90% moves like Lilligant's Triple Axle are really risky, being reduced to 72% per hit, with Wide Lens bringing it up to a slightly more comfortable 79%. It gives a nice ability and niche item a chance to interact and find some niche competitive use, as Hustle mons can blow through teams if hitting their moves. The ability Unburden doubles the user's speed when their item is consumed or removed. This actually has great synergy with a bunch of items, so I'm going to include a few here. Most famous is probably the Citrus Berry, which procs and heals the user when their HP hits 50% or lower of their max. Perfect synergy on Belly Jump Slurpuff to set up a sweep if you give it a free turn. But then we have items like the White Herb that restore lowered stats of the holder and then is consumed. This is popular in close combat mons like Sneasler, Hawlucha, and Hitmonlee, who double their speed after use while restoring their lower defenses. Normal Gem is another item that can give you an Unburden boost on command when paired up with Fake Out. Terrain Seeds of course need to be mentioned, as they are even more automatic for getting that speed boost, since all you have to do is swap in on a terrain and your item is consumed. There's a few other items that synergize great like Power Herb, Lychee Berry, and Focus Ash that do the trick as well, but are more situational. Pretty much all the practical consumables work with this ability, since it can activate without the user having held an item at one point and then not having it. So unless you want to rely on getting knocked off, you'll run a consumable item that synergizes well with this ability. The ability Guts boosts the user's attack by 50% when inflicted with a status condition. Well, the best way to guarantee this ability is active is to hold an item that inflicts a status for you. For this, we have the Flame Orb. This item will burn the target at the end of the turn the holder is active. Obviously, it doesn't get much better than this for synergy. You can also use a Toxic Orb to activate Guts, but with Burn's nerf to do less damage per turn, it doesn't make sense not to run Flame Orb anymore. This is pretty much the go-to item for any Guts user. Quick Feet, on the other hand, would make sense to run Toxic Orb on a physical attacker, since this ability doesn't ignore the attack drop from Burn like Guts does. If you're running Quick Feet on a special attacker, which is just Jolteon, then Flame Orb is the better option. We have the ability Toxic Boost, which is a Guts adjacent one, exclusive to Zangoose, that only works when poisoned, so it gets paired up with Toxic Orb. The Toxic Orb also very obviously synergizes well with the ability Poison Heal. You know, the ability that heals you when you're poisoned. I do suggest you pair this up on your Gliscor and Breloom instead of hoping your opponent will poison you themselves. You can also use Fling on Gliscor to poison your opponent, so that just adds a little bit to the synergy. Of course, I have to mention the most popular examples of great synergy between items and abilities. This is definitely the interactions with Life Orb and the abilities Sheer Force and Magic Guard. Life Orb has a very interesting interaction with Pokemon that are running the Sheer Force ability. Long story short, if you're using a move that is boosted by Sheer Force, the Life Orb recoil you would have taken is nullified, treated like a secondary effect essentially, and you still get the power boost from them both. You'll still take Life Orb recoil normally for non-boosted moves, which is the reason Pokemon like Nidoking, who has a higher attack stat, will use special sets with more Sheer Force boosted moves. I have a video explaining it in depth if you want to check it out. Magic Guard, on the other hand, protects the user from all indirect damage. So slapping a Life Orb on those mons will give the 30% power boost to your moves, but you won't take any of the recoil since it's considered indirect damage. This is great on the Alakazam and Reuniclus lines, along with Clefairy and Sigilyph, which are actually all the lines that have access to this ability. If you want to go the support route with Magic Guard, you have great options by running items like Sticky Barb or Flame and Toxic Orb to trick onto the opponent. You'll still get status by the orbs, but you'll take no damage yourself, along with being able to steal a beneficial item and reap the benefits, which is an advantage this ability has over Klutz. Sigilyph enjoys using the move Psycho Shift to pass on self-induced status and then regain it the next turn. Magic Guard means it isn't harmed itself, while you could essentially have a 100% accurate Will-O-Wisp or Toxic while protecting yourself from actual harmful status like Para, Sleep, and Freeze. I'll also quickly note how Magic Guard protects the user from entry hazard damage as well, making the item Focus Sash very reliable on their users. Alakazam enjoys knowing that even with full hazards up, it will be coming in at 100% health with its Sash attack if it needs to revenge KO something. I have some honorable mentions to wrap up the video. These are some borderline cases I wanted to include, along with some super obvious ones I alluded to in the beginning. By the way, you watching this far means that there's more than a 0% chance you're liking this video, so why not hit that like button real quick? And what synergizes better with the like button than slapping its partner in crime, the subscribe button? The abilities Snowcloak and Sandveil boost the user's evasion in their respective weathers. This paired with the item Bright Powder gives an extra 10% evasion boost. You're putting all your eggs in one basket to just dodge your opponent's attack, and I think this gimmick, banned in singles now, was worth a mention. The Punching Glove is a newer item that boosts punching moves by 10%. Along with this, it protects the user from those harmful contact effects from other Pokemon when using punching moves. This synergizes pretty well with the ability Iron Fist, which boosts punching moves by 20%. It's definitely not the most powerful setup when compared to a common item like the Life Orb or type boosting item, but it does give you consistent damage with no drawbacks while acting like a pseudo protective pads, so it definitely fits here in the honorable mentions. Wonder Guard has great synergy with a few items, I guess. Focus Sash, so you can live a hit. You also have safety goggles and heavy duty boots to dodge weather damage and entry hazards. I mean, it was kind of worth a mention here. The Figgy Berry and its friends definitely synergize well with the ability Gluttony. These are normally pinch berries that won't activate until the user is sitting at 25% of their max HP or lower, which is pretty risky. Gluttony allows these berries to activate at 50% HP or lower, so being able to use your ability to gain a better heal than a citrus berry would give you is a pretty good benefit, especially when these berries were crazy powerful in Gen 7 and healed 50% of your HP, which made mons like Linoon a lot more reliable as a belly drum sweeper. Fortunately, they nerfed those berries to heal only 33%. Such a big change as we see Linoon going from RUBL to NUBL, in part due to this nerf. Quark Drive and Photosynthesis have amazing synergy with Booster Energy. It's like these were made for each other. Booster Energy serves as a one-time activation to give these mons a boost without needing harsh sunlight or electric terrain active. Other than that are the ones I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but do you have any other ones I may have glanced over? And let me know what your favorite item and ability combo to run is. Personally, I always enjoyed Magic Guard with a Flame Orb on Sigalith with Cosmic Power and Stored Power. Thanks to my YouTube and Patreon supporters, including Gold Bud, Mr. Frank Beans, and Bucket Boys. If you want to support the channel, check out my links in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this one I chose specifically for you. See you soon, buds.